Okay, guys, today we're dealing with an interesting question. A guy here is asking Turek, what makes Jesus so special when we look at Buddha or Muhammad or other miracles in other religions? Why choose Jesus among all these different faiths? Let's get into the video. We'll talk about it after we're done.
I've got a friend that has been an atheist for a long time, but then he's been adopting the Buddhist faith. And so when I talk to him about the resurrection, he agrees that maybe something special happened, but he also says that when the Buddha died, that there was an emission of light or something that his followers saw. So I guess the question would be, what do you do with the miracles or supposed miracles that other faiths claim?
Good question. I think you have to evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. And when you evaluate them on a case-by-case basis, they pale in comparison to Christianity. In fact, Muhammad, when it comes to Islam, said, I don't do miracles. Miracles were attributed to Muhammad 150 years after he died in the written traditions known as the Hadith. But the Quran says he doesn't even do miracles. He's just a plain warner. He just warns people there's one God. So there are no other, to my knowledge, eyewitness accounts, like the kind we have in the New Testament, of some other world religion giving us or performing miracles or miracles confirming another world religion. Think about Mormonism for a second. What's the big supposed miracle in Mormonism? Oh, Joseph Smith had these golden plates. Hey, I can make golden plates in my garage if I have the right material, right? How is that a miracle? I mean, some things that are supposedly people find persuasive, I go, what? I don't get it. The Buddha, the light, is what evidence do you have for that? I mean, what I would ask, what do you mean by that? And how'd you come to that conclusion? What evidence do you have that that was divine? And by the way, if he's saying there was a miracle when the Buddha died, it depends on what kind of Buddhism you're talking about. Some of it's atheistic Buddhism. So what created this miracle if there's no God out there when Buddha died, right? And for those that believe in karma, that's more of a Hindu kind of thing. You know what karma means is that your next life will reflect the good or bad things you did in this life. And so if you come back as a king, you must have done something great in the previous life. If you come back as a cockroach, you may have done something evil, right? Well, think about that. What would that system require? First of all, it would require a moral law. So you need somebody like God. You'd also need somebody like God to keep track of all this. Oh, you did what in your previous life? Okay, let me put you up here. Oh, you did this? Let me put you down here. You would need a mind like God to keep track of that whole karma thing. So they have to steal from God while they're arguing against him, right? And you know what I've noticed? In fact, this happened a couple of years ago. I was in Dallas. I remember I was in Dallas, and we were at the book table, me and a couple other colleagues, and some lady came up to me and said, you got a good book on Buddhism. And I said, why? And she said, well, my friend who was a Christian has just become a Buddhist. And I said, I don't know your friend at all, but let me just ask you this question and see if I may be guessing right here. Did your friend, she was a Christian, you say, did she start doing something that Christians would consider immoral and the Bible would consider immoral? She said, yeah. I said, so she wanted to maintain spirituality without the moral accountability. That's why she became a Buddhist. It wasn't because she thought Buddhism was true and investigated some sort of evidence. She wanted to keep doing what she wanted to keep doing, but she didn't want to say she wasn't spiritual. She went, bingo. See, that's the issue. You don't need a book on Buddhism. She doesn't even know what Buddhism is, right? She doesn't think it's true necessarily. She just wanted something spiritual that she could cover her lack of accountability. She didn't want accountability.
Wow, that last response was absolutely powerful, because isn't that really the issue with all of us? You know, we always choose, like even some atheists, I don't want to generalize all of them. When I was considering atheism, I didn't really investigate Christianity, or I grew up Christian, but I never really investigated, you know, the evidence for Christ, the evidence for his resurrection, why we believe. I always knew, though, you know, Christ claimed to be the one way and only way to God, but I always ask this question, but why? How could he be the only way? There's so many religions, right? But I never really investigated because I wanted to continue continue to live the same lifestyle I wanted to live. And I knew atheism provided that. You don't know accountability. And that's everyone's problem. Even if you're not an atheist, like the woman Turek was just talking about, Buddhism. So she didn't want to, I know people like this, by the way, they don't want to push away the spiritual life, they want to do the yoga and all these things, right? But not Christ. I don't want to go to Jesus, where, I have to ask for forgiveness, repent, and maybe forgive some people in my life. But I want this spiritual dose in my life. So here I get the spiritual dose in my life while having no accountability. I just love that part. But what do you think about this debate? How do you feel about Christ among different faiths? I want to know what you think. And please, if you enjoyed this video, join Daily Pursuit of Truth. Leave a like. I really appreciate it. And as always, keep seeking truth and standing firm in the one who's truth himself.